Well, 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 look who's here. I haven't seen you in many a year. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How'd you do, how'd you do, how'd you do? Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band, grand band in the land. Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band and spread the welcome mat for you.
Hi, welcome to Baking with Tricia here at Smolak Farms. This week we're going to be making one of my favorite things in the entire world, chocolate whoopie pies. This is a recipe, I know I talk about her a lot, but my dead grandmother, she is the one that taught me how to bake. And ever since I was a little girl, I would sit in her kitchen with her and we'd bake like a different thing every week. And chocolate whoopie pies was one of them. And they were always one of my favorites. So they not only remind me of her, but they're also. So, in this week's kit, we have cocoa powder. And this is all the stuff that's gonna come with your kit. And then we'll go over the stuff you're gonna need from home. So we have cocoa powder, we have some sugar, we also have powdered sugar, and this is our flour, and we use all-purpose flour. There are different kinds of flour, but for this recipe we will use all-purpose. You'll have your sprinkles, and this week we have actually portioned out all of the leavening ingredients and salt so that you can do that as well. So we have salt. This is for your frosting. It's just a pinch of salt. And if you don't know what that means, it's literally just a pinch. So I'm sure you can figure that out. Cream of tartar. Then we also have some baking soda and salt. And then and we also have our most important ingredient, marshmallow fluff. And so from your pantry, what you're going to need is 1 cup of milk, and you can use, as I've said before, you can use whole milk, 2%, 1%, just stay away from skim. We also have 2 eggs, and we're gonna need a total of 3 sticks of butter. 1.5 sticks are for the shells, and then the other 1.5 sticks are for the filling. So just keep them separated. Right, so I think that's it for our ingredients, and now we will just go over some of the tools that you're going to need. I use 2 spatulas. You can rinse it off if you only have one. One is for the cake part and one is for the filling. Also an ice cream scoop, and that just helps when you are scooping your batter and putting it onto the cookie sheet. It helps keep it kind of uniform. If you don't have one, it's totally fine. You can just use a tablespoon, but a very mounded tablespoon. We also have measuring spoons. Thank you, thank you. We do have a studio audience this week too. And I like to sift my dry ingredients, so we have a sifter. If you don't have it, you can just put your dry ingredients in a bowl and use a whisk. And then a bowl to put our dry ingredients in before we add them. And then this week I'm using a larger cookie sheet. This is a full sheet, but at home you probably have the half sheets and you can just use 2 of them. And then, as always, a piece of parchment paper. And I think that is about it, so we will get started. So, the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to take all of our dry ingredients and just put all of our dry ingredients through that. So first, we have 2 1/4 cups of our all-purpose flour. And this is all measured out for you, so you don't have to worry about measuring it out of the bags. You can just dump them right in the bowl. And then we have our cocoa powder. And like I've said in other episodes, you want to use good cocoa powder. The better the cocoa powder, the better. I got in a little bit of trouble by naming a not so good cocoa powder, so I won't do that anymore. But it rhymes with Smirchy. All right. And next up, we're gonna go into our leavening ingredients, and we have our baking soda, and this is just 1.5 tablespoons of baking soda. That's right in there. And then we have our salt, and make sure that you use the bag that says salt. not the one that says for frosting, because there's more salt in this one. And again, as I said before in last week and the week before's episode, if you're using salted butter, just leave the salt out of the recipe. I know a lot of people just use salted butter at home, and that's totally fine, but just any other salt on top of that, just leave out. This is the cream of tartar. Put that in. And this recipe is straight from the one that my grandmother used to make. I was lucky enough to get all of her handwritten recipes, and this is one I have framed on my kitchen wall. So now, once everything is in your colander, you just shake it a little, and so you get them all mixed up, and that way you won't have lumps of baking soda or lumps of cocoa or anything like that. And again, if you don't have a colander, or you know, sometimes you'll see the flat sifters without a handle, and you can put right over your bowl. If you don't have one of those, it's totally fine. Just use a whisk. And so once you'll see that you have like a bunch of chunks in the end, and if you just take your spatula and push them through. And so we'll put aside our dry ingredients, and now we're gonna move on to creaming our butter and sugar. So we're gonna take just 1.5 sticks. Don't forget, you want to save the other 1.5 for the filling. And then we'll also take our sugar, which is already measured out for you. And we'll put this right in here. And again, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can certainly use a handheld one, or you can use your hands, but it will take forever. And so I just put this on like low to begin with, and then you can make it a little higher. And so you do want to cream this for about 2 minutes, and you just want to make sure that all the butter and all the sugar is all mixed together. And I do, after it's on for about 30 seconds, I always scrape the bottom to make sure that you get everything off the bottom. And then you'll just let it go. Great. And so whoopie pies are one of my favorite things. In this area especially, like if you go to like New Hampshire, Maine, to those like little, you know, like convenience-y type stores, but also they sell like tchotchkes or whatever, they always have like a thing of whoopie pies by the counter, and I always buy them, no matter where I am, because I just love them. And I eat them like an Oreo cookie. I take them apart, and I lick the frosting off. It's disgusting to watch, but they're delicious. My grandmother's recipe, which is this one, it tends to be a little cakier. Some of them, if you get like a whoopie pie and it's like really soft and like pillowy, they probably use oil. I find that a little bit more difficult because the batter is runny. And so you want to get this nice and fluffy. So that is good. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to be adding our milk and our dry ingredients. And so you want to do this in 3 additions. So we're going to begin and end with the dry ingredients. And so I like to put my stand mixer up just to make sure that you don't get it all over the table. So we'll put about 1/3 of that in. So start it on low, just like kind of, I don't know what this is, like, zhuzh it a little. You know, like, but that's fine. Alright, and then we'll let it go. And now, again, you want to keep scraping off the sides, because there's nothing worse than, you know, you're taking out your batter and then you get to the bottom of the bowl and it's just a bunch of dry ingredients. And Baking, unlike cooking, there is a lot of science behind it, so you want to make sure that you are using all the ingredients that you put in. So now we're going to turn it back on, and you're just going to pour about 1/3 of the milk in. So you don't want to overmix it because, you know, if you've watched before, I have explained that overmixing something can make it really tough, and something like a whoopie pie can easily get tough if you just beat it too much, and you'll tell, like, it'll be chewy and just not as enjoyable. Alright, so now we're going to add some more dry ingredients, and I'm going to be very careful this time to not get it all over the place. I failed, but, you know, what are you going to do? So then we'll just like pulsate it a little. Alright, now we'll add more milk. We're going to add it all of the milk in the second round. I'm really making a nice mess this week. And then once that's all incorporated, we'll take the rest of our dry ingredients. Got that going, and we're going to add in our eggs. And you don't want to let it go too much because again you will get a tough cake, but it should be, this is a thicker batter, so it's more like a brownie than like a cake batter consistency. And so we're gonna scrape the bowl one more time. And just give it one more little mix and we should be ready to go. So now, as you can see, it's definitely a thicker consistency. It stays on your spoon. Not like, you know, if you make like a Pillsbury or Duncan Hines cake mix, it's very liquidy. And that's not how this is. And that is so that we can scoop it. Because we're going to scoop these onto our cookie sheet to make the shells of the whoopie pie. So, we're going to grab our cookie sheet. And as I said, I'm using a full sheet just because we have them in the bakery, but at home you probably have the half sheet ones, and in that case just use 2 of them. Right. So, scrape off our mixer, and again, if I were at home I would lick this, but I won't do that on camera. I will save you all that treat. Alrighty. Alright, and then just give it one more little mix to make sure that there's nothing on the bottom of the bowl. So we'll take our ice cream scoop, and you just wanna, you put it in the batter and then just kind of scrape it against the side of the bowl so that you get a full scoop of the batter. And then I'll show you a little trick after we scoop them all up that my grandmother taught me. And so this recipe makes, it should make about a dozen shells, and that equals 6 whoopie pies because you have the top and the bottom. And the cool thing about whoopie pies is you can literally make them with any flavor you can think of. I do, chocolate whoopie pies happen to be my favorite. I love them with like a marshmallow filling. But you can also do them with a nice vanilla cake. I've made them with a vanilla bean cake on the outside and then a nice like raspberry cream in the middle. Lemon is also a really fantastic flavor. Red velvet would be delicious with a nice cream cheese frosting in the middle. It's such a versatile recipe that you can really make anything. All right. So we have our cakes all put out, and you want to keep them about 2 inches apart because they do spread out. And so we are going to take just a small amount of warm water. You can get it right from your sink, and we're going to take 2 fingers and just put them in the warm water, and then you just smooth out the tops of the shells. And this just makes them uniform and they look pretty. If you don't do that, the tops will be rough, which is totally fine. It's not going to change the taste or anything, but this is just, this is what my Nana taught me how to do, so you always do what you know. And yeah, you just pat them at the top. And again, if you don't have an ice cream scoop, you could just use a regular tablespoon. And this batter is thick enough that you can certainly mold them to how you want it. And then once this is all done, we're going to put these in a 350-degree oven, and they take about 12 minutes. So about 6 minutes, about halfway through, you can turn them around. If you are using smaller cookie sheets and you have 2 of them in at a time, one thing that I like to do is I do like to switch shelves as well. Put those in there. And so while your cakes are cooking in the oven, you can make your frosting. And so this frosting is just like a normal buttercream frosting, but instead of some of the butter, we're using fluff, which is, as you probably know, a New England favorite. So we're going to take that other stick and a half of butter, and I like to just cream it a little bit first. And you do want to make sure that the butter is room temperature, and because it just makes it easier. You can, if you forget to take your butter out of the fridge, you're just going to have to beat it more to get it to that that softer consistency. Get it off our mixer, and then we'll add our fluff right in there, and you just wanna cream the butter and the fluff together. I did forget to grab the vanilla, so thank you so much. And so this is, as you all, if you've watched us before, you all know that I am a huge fan of vanilla bean paste. You can certainly use regular vanilla extract, that's totally fine. But if you do have vanilla bean paste, or you can get it, it's definitely worth it because the taste is a lot stronger. Want to get that together. And again, make sure that you scrape your bowl because you'll have just butter stuck at the bottom. And then we're going to take just 1 teaspoon of our vanilla. Pour that right in there. I don't think there's anything better than the smell of vanilla. All right, and so when that's all creamed together, what we'll do is we will take our powdered sugar, which comes in your kit. And we'll pour that right in there. And with frosting, you know, it says 2 cups of powdered sugar. If it's something you add milk to, it'll say like a cup of milk or something. But the thing with frosting that I find is sometimes you do have to add a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that just to get it the right consistency. So if you find that 2 cups of powdered sugar isn't enough, you can always just add a little bit more. Again, we'll scrape the bottom of the bowl. And so to fill our whoopie pies, we're going to be using an ice cream scoop just to get, you know, a nice even amount in the middle. But you can also use a piping bag or just a knife or a spoon, whatever you have. And that's perfect. You want it to be a nice, creamy, marshmallowy consistency. And so I do have some shells all ready to be filled. Grab here. So what we will do is take a small ice cream scoop. It's about the same size as the one that you used to scoop out your cookies. And you just want to take 1/2 of a cookie and just put it a scoop right in the middle and then just push it down. So you have a nice little sandwich. And then another thing that you can do is in all of your kits you do get some sprinkles because you know sprinkles are for winners. They're one of my favorite things in the world. So I put sprinkles on basically anything that I can. And so the easiest way to do this is just, you know, put them on a plate or something, and then you can just dip your whoopie pie in so you get a nice little sprinkle on the side. And so again, if you don't have an ice cream scoop, you can certainly just use a knife or a piping bag if you have that, whatever you want. Smush them down, and I always put in extra frosting in one that I'm going to eat because the frosting is the best part in my opinion. And so this week, I have a very special guest to taste our whoopie pies. She works very closely with me in the activities and education department. If you have been to any of our fall festivals when we could have those, or if you've ever been here on a school field trip, you know my friend Judy Negrelli, and I just love her, and I'm so glad that she's with us this week to try our whoopie pies. Hi, Judy.
How are you, Tricia?
How are you?
Good.
So you know what a whoopie pie is, right, Judy?
I do know what a whoopie pie is.
I know. And so these are our whoopie pies we made this week. They're a chocolate cake with a nice marshmallow
Ooh,
frosting.
They look good.
So I would love it if you would, if you'd like to taste one.
I would love to taste
All
one.
right, I will put my mask on so that you can take yours off to eat.
Down. I'm going to try one with sprinkles because I know sprinkles are for winners.
Sprinkles are for winners, and if you don't like them, you're a loser.
Ooh, already I know I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it good?
Mm. You're not supposed to talk with your mouth full, but this is so heavenly, Tricia. This is wonderful.
Yeah, they're delicious, and they remind me of, you know what they remind me of? Have you ever had devil dogs from when we were kids? Devil dogs. I don't know if those are super popular anymore, but They were back in the early 90s when I was
Oh, this is
a
way
kid.
more double dog.
Yeah.
And I understand this recipe came from your grandmother?
From my Nana, yes. And Judy has been to my house multiple times, so she can attest that I have all of her
She does.
recipes.
Yep, I was dying to try when I was at your house. I wonder if she'll ever make
Yeah.
those. These are fabulous, Tricia.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you. And
glad
thank
you
you to your
like them.
grandmother for the recipe.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And you can, you can take the rest of them home for your family. Yeah. Very lucky.
Thank you.
It's a perk of being a friend
Oh
of
my
Baking
gosh.
with Tricia.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much for coming, and thank you so much for joining us this week on Baking with Tricia and our chocolate whoopie pies. You can get your kits, as always, at 315 South Bradford Street in North Andover at the Smolak Farms farm stand, or you can go online at www.smolakfarms.com and order your kits there. Again, if you're out of town and you do want to bake with Tricia, just shoot me an email at education@smolakfarms.com, and I'm sure we'd be happy to set something up to send you one. We hope you join us again next week for another episode of Baking with Tricia. Have a great day.
If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you